and Ranking Member. This is a very important topic. I appreciate everyone's patience and presence here today. I know it's been a long day. Lowering barriers to adoption, supporting families post-adoption, I think there's been a federal precedent for this effort. It's something we need to make sure that we continue and improve upon. And so your testimony has been helpful in guiding us in that regard. This question, I'll start off for anyone in the panel. Feel free to respond. But from the standpoint of those who are seeking to adopt a child from foster care, how efficiently do the various federal and state programs supporting adoption appear to work together in your estimation? And as you think about answering that, there may be some particular areas of focus that you want to attend to. Perhaps the information that would-be adoptive parents need to access tax credits supporting adoption. Do they receive sufficient information? Do they receive sufficient information about maintenance payments for children with special needs? Are they told of post-adoption services from programs like Promoting Safe and Stable Families and Child Welfare Services? So I'll leave this open to the panel, please.
Yeah, I'll try to take a stab at that. I think one thing you mentioned specifically that I'd like to touch on is the adoption tax credit. What we've seen with the changes in the adoption tax credit that have happened in the last few years is that a lot of adoptive families are not able to access it because they don't have a tax liability high enough. I can follow up. There's great information behind this. So that's one issue. So it became refundable in 2010 for 2 years. It takes a certain amount of time and effort for that information to trickle down from the federal level to states, to families, to caseworkers. And what we've seen most recently that when it was just reauthorized in January, it was not refundable, and for 2012 it's not. But what families were told, and we keep hearing from families that it was refundable, so they were looking forward to using those services, that money to support their children after adoption. So there is a lack of what knowledge is really getting to the families, and so that could be short up. There was one other question I wanted to get to.
I'll actually be coming back to you, so
Sure.
Would others like a crack at that question?
Yeah, as someone who went through the process 4 times, I think those are really great questions. We were not aware of the adoption tax credit in the beginning. I guess for some reason we just assumed it was only for intercountry adoption and not for foster care adoption, so we missed it for 1 or 2 kids. That was a bummer. But we're then able to access it after the fact. I think that for the families that are going through the process, things are pretty overwhelming. The amount of paperwork is overwhelming. The time that things take can be overwhelming. The level of intrusiveness that it feels like into your life feels pretty overwhelming. I don't say all of those things, however, to say that we need to change them all. I actually have a little bit of a counterintuitive perspective on that. I think that if you're going to welcome home a child who's experienced previous trauma, you have to be ready for a lot of situations that do not fall under the umbrella of normal parenting. And so when you go through these processes that frankly are very difficult, I actually think it helps prepare you for the difficulty to come. And so I think there's a balance in how much we want to streamline.
Sure.
And so many of the processes,
Right.
of course, are for safety. And so there's really not much that should be done.
Thank you. I'm going to follow up with Ms. Dobbins in my remaining time here. You mentioned a menu of different policy options that are available to us to both promote more adoptions and perhaps improve those post-adoption connections. Mr. Doggett, I think, questioned you about more detailed HHS reporting. It makes great sense to me. You mentioned state examples of best practices need to be better enforced or regulated by HHS. If you could briefly, we've got about 30 seconds left, indicate what you're referring to there, or speak to the reduction of incentives for states that do not end up with permanent connections at a high level.
I think one thing is the 4E training. We talked a lot about practices. I think it could be encouraged, especially with public and private partnerships, of how good examples of what this is looking like. There's a reimbursement level that can be expanded. Sorry, I'm blanking on the next thing, but I hope that answers your question. I'm
That's all
happy
right.
to follow up after.
I yield back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.